Touching story? Combines hallucinogenic drugs with athleticism. You don't hear a lot of that in folk music anymore. Is it all right if I tell you one more story before I go? It's only going to take about an hour and a half. Is that all right? It's another touching story that combines hallucinogenic drugs with athleticism. It dates back to the early 80s when I was a young man in Beaverton, Oregon, and my father was a very athletic guy. Not that he was good at athletics, he just liked to watch them and wanted his children to perform well at them. And that came easy to my brother, but that did not come easy to me, brothers and sisters. I will tell you this though, I worked hard, and by the time I was a junior in high school at Beaverton High School in Beaverton, Oregon, I was a member of the varsity football team. I'm not saying that they ever put me in the game or nothing, but I was on the team. Now, as many of you who might come to a music festival might know, or not know, what it's like to be on a football team in high school. What it means to be on the high school football team is that you and about 50 other guys are going to get together for about 3 months out of the year for about 90 minutes a day, and you're going to go inside and you're going to take off all your comfortable outfits and you're going to put on uncomfortable outfits. And then you're going to go outside, whether it's windy, rainy, snowy, hot, whatever it is, you're going to go out there and run into and away from each other, all in relationship to the movement of a ball, while consistently being yelled at by adults. Now, sometimes they'll do it on right after school, sometimes they'll do it later after school, sometimes they'll do it at another school, sometimes they'll get other kids to do it with you and keep track of the shit that you do and cheer while you do it. But technically all you're really doing is what I mentioned before. Now, your parents, or at least my parents, tried to put it on me that I was representing our district and that if things went well, we could win state. I didn't even know I was from a fucking district, and now it's on me to win this thing for my family. And how do I do it? I put on an uncomfortable outfit and I go outside. And at practice, we would wait in line to push these sleds, right? And the sleds don't come at you in the game. I don't know why you practice it, but we practiced it. Not only did we practice it, we waited in line to practice it. So one afternoon, I'm waiting in line to push something, and I noticed that across the field I'm standing in, there's a different field full of these other kids that have on the same stuff they've been wearing all day. So I tap this kid in front of me and I say, "Who are those kids?" He says, "Those are the burnouts." I said, "What do you mean they're burnouts?" He said, "Yeah, they hang out in the smoke pit." I said, "What's the smoke pit?" He said, "That's where the burnouts hang out." I didn't know any more than I started with, so I asked the coach, and I said, "Coach, what's a burnout from the smoke pit?" He said, "Oh, Snider, man, I'd hate to see you turn into a burnout from the smoke pit." Sorry, coach. I said, "What's wrong with that?" He said, "I don't want to disparage anybody, Snider, but look at them. They're like these dirty sheep standing around in a field doing nothing." And I thought, okay, well, I don't guess I want to be that, so I went on about my life. And one afternoon I was in the cafeteria and I sat down next to a guy that I clearly recognized as a burnout from the smoke pit. And we started talking and he seemed just as nice as anybody on the football team. Then he said to me, "Hey, Snider, have you ever tried any hallucinogenic mushrooms before?" And I said, "Well, no, I have not." He said, "Would you like to try something like that?" And I said, "Sure, that sounds fun." So he handed me a handful of these things and I ate them. And about a half hour later, I knew there was no chance that I was going to be going to football practice that afternoon. So I went to that other field and stood with those other guys. And it was the first time in my life that I'd ever seen the life that had been planned for me from a distance. There they were, the football team. And I ain't trying to disparage anybody either, and brothers and sisters, but they could have arguably been called a bunch of dirty sheep standing around in a field doing nothing. And just as I was taking this in, I looked up at the goalpost that we were always trying to get towards, and I noticed that the goalpost had turned into a candle. And just as I was taking that in, I noticed that the goalpost was now a Roman candle. And just as I was taking that in, I looked across the field and I saw that sled that I had pushed. And I saw my friends lined up to push it. Only now that sled had morphed into Fred G. Sanford himself from the hit situation television comedy Sanford and Son. And he was holding his chest and raising his hand like it was the big one. And they were pushing him anyway. And then that sled morphed into Jesus Christ, and I'm not trying to be sacrilegious. I said, you're pushing Jesus. And they kept pushing Jesus. And then Jesus morphed into this other guy that wasn't Jesus, but had a robe and sandals and looked like one of those kind of guys that might have hung with Jesus in the day. And as I was staring at him, we made eye contact with each other. And he yelled across the field at me. He said, hey man, do you have 2 10s for a 5 or 2 quarters for a nickel? Do you know how to get to Arca Butler, or can a man even get there from here? And it was in that moment, friends and neighbors, that I knew I was never going to go back to football practice again for as long as I was going to be alive. And wow. To this day, I still ironically follow Coach Boyer and the Beaverton Beaver football team because A, I think this could be the year we win district, and B, we got the coolest goalposts in the whole fucking state. And that, friends and neighbors, is the touching story of how hallucinogenic drugs turned me from the scoreboard watching jock that my dad was hoping for into the peace-loving, pot-smoking, porn-watching, lazy-ass hippie that stands before you this afternoon. Thank you for letting us play for you. Conservative Christian, right-wing Republican, straight white American male, gay bashing, black fearing, war fighting, tree killing, regional leaders of sales, shirt tucking, frat housing, cake tapping, back slapping, hater of hippies like me, tree hugging, peace loving, pot smoking, porn watching, lazy ass hippies like me. Tree hugging, peace loving, pro-choice and gay wedding, widespread panic digging hippies like me. Skin color blinded, conspiracy minded, protesters of corporate greed. We who have nothing, and most likely will till we all end up locked up in jail by conservative Christian, right-wing Republican, straight white American man. Diamonds and dogs, boys and girls, living together in 2 separate worlds, following leaders of mountains of shame, looking for someone to blame. I know who I like to blame. Conservative Christian, right-wing Republican, straight white American man, soul-saving, flag-waving, rush-loving, land-paving, personal friends to quail. Why would you only work so hard to keep the free reins of this democracy? From tree-hugging, peace-loving, pot-smoking, porn-watching, lazy-ass hippies like me. Tree-hugging, peace-loving, pot-smoking, porn-watching, lazy-ass hippies like me. Tree-hugging, peace-loving, pot-smoking, porn-watching, lazy-ass hippies like me. Tree-hugging, peace-loving, barefoot and folk singing, lazy-ass hippies like me.
Todd Snider! Peace, love, and hippie. Great American Taxi.